I had to call the cops on employees. I had to call the cops on customers. I got one customer arrested, and then one of my employees got mad at me and told him. And then he gets out of jail and he comes in the restaurant. He's like, "Why'd you get me arrested?" I was like, "Bro, I will get you arrested again." We changed all of our events to cold calling. We were sending out the mail and we were spending $5,000 just to make them happy. Well, we started shifting it, and all of a sudden they're cold calling. That's free for us. It's free for everyone. And the experience they're getting is through the roof.
Yeah.
Even a cold call, you learn more than handling a great direct mail lead, you know?
Hey, welcome to the King Show here. You're on with, I've got Nicholas Nick, say that 6 times real quick, with Lead Mining Pros here, a complete boss at lead generation. And I don't use that term loosely here. So, man, we're just going to dive right into this. I'm going to interview Nick because although he's a vendor and got a fantastic marketing company, he's also got a pretty, I'd say amazing, but also relatable, like entrepreneurial journey and story, right? On the come up, put in the hours, put in the work, put in the reps. So yeah, I'm happy to have him on. And I'm just going to welcome you to the show, man. And then we're going to dive right into it. Like, I'd love for you to just pre-Lead Mining Pros, right? Share with us kind of what things look like before this on the come up, as you were grinding and working. What's the, like, it's almost like before entrepreneur, after entrepreneur, right? Bring us back to when you were kind of slaving away and the thought of owning your own business was kind of just a daydream.
Yeah, you know, and I'll tell some exclusive stuff. I'll go further back. You know, we talked about a little bit of what this show looks like and the goal of it. And, you know, a part of my journey I don't share because I'm not necessarily going for relatability and stuff. I'm more just telling my story, you know. And so, you know, it starts with the conditions that we were in is worse than where we are now, right? So it's like I used to, even when I was 14 years old, so my father made me work with him every summer. So while every kid had every summer off, my dad was like, "You're getting in the," my dad showed up to work at 6 a.m. and he worked until 6 p.m. And I'm 13, so I'm not driving and meeting him there, right? And he worked 40 minutes away. So every day at 5 a.m. on the summers, I got to get up. My dad's driving me to work. I'm working a 12-hour day, and then he's driving me home every night. And so, you know, when we talk about grit sometimes, right? You know, when we talk about grit, it's like, I want to give a lot of credit to my restaurant career, which I'll get to shortly. But, you know, if you really think about what my father was doing, is he was preparing me, you know, in a sense, like, hey, this is going to be a long day. I mean, looking back on some of even those days, those were hard. Those aren't hard days, but they're hard days when you're 14 years old.
Absolutely. When you compare it to what everybody else is doing at that age, because I've got a very similar story. What were you getting up and doing at that time and putting in 12 hours? What were you guys doing?
I got fired from 7 different departments at my dad's job. So I did a little bit of everything. I got fired from every department they put me in. I started off he was in trusses, roof trusses. So ironically,
your dad was in trusses? Okay.
Yes. And so they built trusses. It was a huge company. They did like $3 million a week. And this is like in the 90s. Okay. Yeah. With like 3 million is probably 10 million today.
We've got to adjust for the Biden administration inflation, right? Not just the decades, but the last couple of years alone, right?
It's like a 4-time multiple, right? You know, but so they crushed it. They were a big company. And so I started with administrative work, right? Working at a desk. They did something called plan comparison. Very boring, very boring. I would look at 2 blueprints and I would look for the differences in the measurements. If there was a difference, I circled it in red. If it was the same, I highlighted it in green. 40 hours a week of that. So that was the first department I was in. The journey really started there, you know, when dad bringing me to work. Then I did have ADHD. So the only career that could keep my attention was restaurants. Yeah. Okay. I tried it. I remember one year I tried to leave the restaurant industry. I was 3 years in and I was like, I'm out of here. Screw these guys. I had 9 different jobs that year and none of them were a fit. And I was like, you know what? I got to go back to restaurants. You know, they're stimulating, they're fun. You're using your hands. They're constant. Yeah, right. Yeah. You're just getting pelted emotionally, physically. financially. And the truth is that stuff is stimulating. And, you know, and I'm a big fan of having ADHD. I need to be pretty stimulated, right? It's one of the main things. So I loved it. And the women work there. You know, I used to say, women, money, and food. You know, what more could you ask for out of a job?
Depending where you're at in life, you stack rank those differently. Is that right?
right. Yeah, exactly.
As we get older, maybe
it's probably food, money, women.
Food climbs up the I don't know.
Yeah. But no, so it was cool. Now I was in the restaurant industry for 12 years. Okay. I got promoted very fast. Those 3 years in, I was a manager. Now I'm making $28,000 a year working 70 hours a week.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's salary. That's not hourly. So if I work more, there's no time and a half. It's just what it is. After 12 years of that, I did get all the way up to $65,000 a year. And
what year was this? What year was this?
This was when I was 29 years old. So 10 years ago.
Okay.
10 years ago. I quit. I walked out when I was 30. Okay.
30. And what year were we at? 2014-ish?
29. Yeah. Yeah. So I was 30 back then. So I quit 9 years ago. And I worked at this job. So I worked everywhere. I worked at IHOPs. Okay. Dunkin' Donuts, Panera Bread. Dude, IHOP was the craziest. I had to call the cops on employees. I had to call the cops on customers. I got one customer arrested, and then one of my employees got mad at me and told him. And then he gets out of jail, and he comes in the restaurant. He's like, "Why'd you get me arrested?" I was like, "Bro, I will get you arrested again. Okay? If you do anything, you're going right back to jail." So
I will throw a triple stack in your face if you come at me. Yeah.
A moon's over my hammy is fucking coming your way, dude. But dude, that was a lot of fun. But you know, I never went to one of my employees. You know, one of my rules was I'm not going to my lowest paid person in the building and having him clean up a mess. Okay. Now there's two reasons. Number one, his job already sucks enough already. He's already the lowest. He's already in the dish pit, making the least amount, scraping food off everyone's plate. That's number one. Number two is, you know, it's really important I'm the highest paid person in the building. I think that makes me the man for the tough jobs. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything that had to do with the dumpster is on me. Throw up, poop, something crazy. I got it. Okay.
I wouldn't make my troops do anything that I wouldn't do, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't even want them doing this stuff. Plus, at first it was because I have a good work ethic and I care, but then I actually got to see how much they love to see me putting on my armar and going into
lead by example. Yeah.
I remember one time I was jumping up and down in a dumpster because it was overflowing and we had to put more trash in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm dressed up like I'm the front of house manager, and one of my employees goes, "Nick, I can't believe you're jumping up and down in a dumpster right now, bro." And I was like, "Man, we gotta get it done. We gotta get it done." But anyway, so you know, I never picked the lowest paid guy, and the other thing was, if I accidentally made that guy quit, I also didn't want to do his job for the next 8 hours.
Right. Yeah, you understand the value, and it only takes going through that pain of backfilling and losing and to know that, right? That's a little bit of wisdom in your 20s already.
Well, right? It's like, I don't want to be in the dish pit till 3 a.m., man. I got my own stuff to do, right?
So are we thinking or daydreaming at all about doing our own thing yet, or just when we're in the dumpster that we're going, okay, maybe like career choice wise,
so I was
not where I want to be.
I was an audiobook nut. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah.
I listened to every Gary Vee book until I was 30 years old, some of them twice. I listened to 7 Habits of Highly Effective People like over 5 times. Okay. Yeah. I swear by 7 Habits. If anyone hasn't listened to that, you got to listen to 7 Habits. It will literally change. Find the 23-hour version and just fall in love. You know, I call him Grandpa. His name's Stephen Covey. That's the author.
I love him. Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah, my kids got a big kick out of when I was listening to the audiobook years ago, How to Win Friends and Influence People. They're like, "Dad, you got to listen to a book about how to get friends." That's rough, right?
The kids are brutal.
Got a kick out of that. But yeah, absolutely invaluable stuff. Anything from that era, like the Jim Rohn, the Stephen Covey, like these guys, everything you see from like Tony Robbins and these other guys, a lot of that is like second generation of
It's
these
like
really
evolved.
our forefathers of self-development, right?
Yeah.
So I love it. So you're working on personal development.
Right.
You're listening to that because you don't have time to sit in a recliner and read a book. So you're
Right.
listening to
Well,
the
that,
audio book. That was
yeah.
the route I went to. You're either commuting to work to and from,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, hey, rather than listen to some pop charts or talk radio, you're actually like self-educating with audiobook.
No, yeah, exactly. And I had to. I mean, like it was 2 hours a day in the car, like you said, and I had to use. You know what was cool is I audiobooked on the way there, and then I would try to use everything I learned live on the ship, right? So it's
Yeah.
like I practiced swinging the sword, and I'd get to
Right.
work, and I'm swinging the sword. So
Yeah.
it was. And then the truth is, a lot does work, a lot doesn't work, right? And we're all individual. I ended up finding my leadership style. So at this point, IHOP's in the past, Dunkin' Donuts is in the past, and I didn't have entrepreneurship in mind, but I was innovative. I was the only computer nerd around. A lot of these blue collar jobs, no one is rich in computer knowledge, right? And I grew up a big nerd. Anytime something was wrong, Nick, company wide, phone calls come in. Hey, simple shit, to me, simple.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, well, change the Excel file. Oh, do this, do that. My dad got me a computer in my hands when I was like 6, and I'm 39. So that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
It was like the first computer ever made was an Apple IIe, made by Apple. Anyway, so I knew I was skilled. I did not know entrepreneurship was coming. When I ended up quitting that job, they transferred me to my hometown. No more commute. No more 2 hours a day. I was like, dude, this is awesome. I walk into work. I'm scheduled 6 days a week. 15 hours a day for 6 weeks. And everyone else was scheduled 5 days a week. Yeah. And the theory was they were all just working 6 days a week before I showed up. So now in order for them to all get a day off, I now have to come in and work 6 days a week. But that was 90 hours a week, what I just reiterated to you.
Yeah.
And I've been working here for 4 years. And my rule is I work with the team works. If we're all on 6, I'm on 6. If we're all on 5, I'm on 5. I'm not, and I was the only one working 6. I was like, guys, I'm not doing this. I'm sorry. And I'm also getting burnt out. I'm on year 12 of leadership and of 70. I mean, real talk, I had an ulcer that was brewing so bad in my stomach. The day I quit, I actually just said, I'm going to the hospital, right? Because I was in so much pain, but that wasn't pain, that was stress.
Yeah, absolutely.
All of it was, the day I walked out on that job, the next morning my stomach stopped hurting and it never came back.
It's so true. I can share with you, I had a similar thing. How it kind of manifested itself was it was almost, it's not even fair to call it like a headache. It was like a tension. It almost felt like a knot in the brain of, as I was working, this is when I was working the side hustle and the business, or, and the W-2 job and the side hustle together. And it was just like you said, the hours were crazy, right? Yeah. Like it was just too much. And that went away like the minute, right? If not the day after quitting and going full time and be able to focus on one thing completely, that like knot or mental tension I had of trying to balance everything and being overwhelmed just completely fell away. So it's nuts how it can like stress can manifest itself physically, right? It's a very, very real thing. Yeah.
And you know what's crazy is before that, if you would have ever told me that stress causes physical pain, I would have said, because I'm raised by baby boomers, you might be too. So when you're raised by them, you are them until your life takes you a different pathway, right? And then all of a sudden, what happened too is I got into a car accident. And after the car accident, my whole body literally like seized up. I couldn't even like open doorknobs, like from my neck to my arms. I was like cramped up for like 2 months. And that's when I was like, like something is horribly off. And the truth is, I was working in restaurants. I'm eating fried chicken sandwiches every day. Okay. We had the best fried chicken sandwich this place I worked at. All right. We had awesome hamburgers. And when you work there, you know how to make the best food. Like it's not just good. It's another drug.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm
And
sucking
you're
down.
serving you, right? You're putting a little extra effort into it.
Right, right.
All right.
This is the best damn burger anybody's ever eaten.
Table. It's for you. Yeah. You're going to put, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And you've been, and I've been doing it for 12 years now, so I know exactly how I want it. Now I just look like a bougie bitch whenever I go out because I know how I like everything.
Yeah.
But no, that's yeah, but
Get
that's
back to the kitchen. Yeah.
yeah, I know. Do you need a hand back there? I know exactly how I want this now. So my diet sucked, and then my body started getting out of whack, and then my mind started getting out of whack. And the truth is, I was actually just eating because I'm just so stressed. It's like whenever, so there's something called a willpower meter, okay, that might resonate with a lot of people. So we only have so much willpower in every day, okay? So do you ever make, you know what, I'm going to start running tomorrow, I'm going to start my new diet tomorrow, and I'm going to start being nicer to my family, okay?
Tomorrow. That's
tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow.
And so it's like you literally cannot do all three things. Now you can want to, those are goals, right?
Yeah.
But you cannot make that much change. You're going to run out of willpower. And you might find yourself at the end of a workout or at the end of a day, all of a sudden you're like, well, I'm going to order a bunch of chocolate. Oh, well, I'm going to do this. And what that is that's that willpower draining as soon as we go back. So what I was doing is I was draining my willpower meter working 14 hours a day, showing up to these shifts. And when it came time to control my diet or have better, I had nothing to dig from. So if anyone's watching this or listening, you're like, oh man, I know I'm doing this thing that's bad for me, or I know that this isn't the best for me. Well, if you're struggling why you can't quit it, it's because that energy is being taken up and you're like, I'm drained, dude. I deserve this. I've earned this.
Right.
I used to have my dad used to say, Nick, you have a spending problem, money spending. And I would say, Dad, when I finally have a day off, I feel like I'm coming up for air. Right? Why am I working? Yeah, right. Why am I working 70 hours a week to not? And I mean, I wasn't making that. I wasn't spending that much. But when you're only making $1,500-$1,200 a week, you don't have to spend that much to have a money spending problem, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, Dad, I'm coming up for air. I feel like I can't breathe all week. So when I finally have a day off, if I fucking see something I want to buy, I'm going to buy it. It's like, I don't want to tell myself no. I tell myself no all week long because I'm at work.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's where, like you said, you justify these things, you rationalize these things, and they're really just kind of making up for something else that's off. Right? Like you're saying, that imbalance of giving them too much of your life. So you've got to squeeze in as much life as you can in that little bit of time. And sometimes spending, right? It's tough though, right? To out earn those bad spending habits, right? We both know people at all levels. It doesn't matter if you make 40,000 a year or 400,000. There's people living paycheck to paycheck, right? Because you can spend at that clip regardless what you earn. So how do you go from restaurant to real estate, which is kind of what you're known for, right? Is we're generating leads for real estate investors and agents and everything. How do you make that leap from the restaurant to real estate? So
I ended up applying for a job at this company, and I didn't know what they were at the time, but they were a real estate education company. I didn't know what that was. I've been flipping burgers my whole life. That's the only way I know how to make money is I move my arms. I have no idea. I know I can make money with my money. Right. And so I apply for this job as an event coordinator. They want to start throwing events nationwide, doing all this stuff. Okay. So I'm like, well, restaurants are basically an event that lasts 16 hours a day. Yeah. I got this shit.
Event never ends. Yeah.
And I committed to myself, no more restaurants. I was done. I wasn't going to quit one more time. I'd been in it for 13 years. I had 33 jobs by the time I was 32 years old. Okay. So there are a lot of restaurants in that restaurant career.
That's impressive. That is impressive, man.
Thank you, bro. Thank you, dude. It's the ADHD, man. Keeps me hungry.
It's not you, it's me, right?
Yeah. Hey guys, it's not you. It's time for me to go. I've learned that's the other part is when I look back at my journey, why I'm so good at things. If you think about those are 33 jobs I learned their entire system. from
Right.
sales to fulfillment. I learned how they make the food, how they process the food. I worked at Asian places. I worked at Italian places. I worked at American places. It's like, if I really look back and I wonder, how did I become a systems and processes expert? It's because I had 33 jobs. If I had one job, we all know this guy, and I'm sorry if anyone here is this guy, but the guy who's had the one job the whole time, the whole career and everything, that guy only in that world is great because he's so programmed by that world.
Yeah, you're in a rut, and it's blinders in the reality. That's I tell people, like, if you're an oil change technician, right? Like, you don't need more than a year of experience, right? Like, if you got 20 years experience, right? Like, it's not like you're a mechanic, right? And you can do all these things. It's like we're repeating the same year of experience 20 times. You don't have 20 years of experience. And that's kind of how a lot of jobs are. It's like after 6 months to a year, you're like, okay, I know 80% of this. I'm with you. I'm kind of like, what's next? So for me, it was more like, it was either taking promotions or it was lateral transfers to other departments to keep things entertaining because, I'm like, okay, I know this, on to the next thing, right? And because you can know 80% of it in a year, and then you can spend the next 5 years learning that last 20%,
Which
right?
this
So
is why,
and that's all of that stuff's transferable because you're in restaurant, which we've got to have systems and processes, or it's chaos. And as much as all the shows would make you think, right, that it's chaotic and everything's a mess in the kitchen, right? Like, it's controlled chaos, and there's a system. You're borrowing from those systems and processes, and you come in and you're the event coordinator for, we won't, for SEO purposes and for privacy, we won't share with who, right? But I'm pretty sure I know who it is, and I think they're 20 minutes down the road from me.
Right.
The total OG back in the day, right, of real estate, for sure. And so you start out doing like this events.
Yeah, right. So they end up hiring me, and I start throwing events for them. I don't know what I'm doing, and I'll never forget my first weekend there. I worked for a couple, and the couple started fighting, and they left, and it was like my third day of work. And like, all I knew was to like do all this work. I'm there till midnight doing this work. And I just started this new career. I'm on my third day, and I'm like, I should walk out. I'm like, this is too weird, right? Yeah. Like, they got into a big argument in front of me, and they both left. Now, but we had all this work to do, and it's my third day. So I'm like the employee, like feeling like the boss.
Right. Already. Yeah. Like, maybe they should read that leadership book.
Yeah. Well, see, and that's the other part is I'm also so well versed in leadership. So it can be hard for me to work for other people. Anyways, I remember I'm assembling these binders, and I'm like, you know what, Nick, stay. This is actually why you're here. You're here because they left. You're here because they're a mess. You're here to save these people, right? You're not here to leave them too. And let's relate it to the restaurant thing. We got the job in months. So I don't need much time. And I was such a fast learner by having 32 jobs. This is my 33rd job. This is my last job I've ever had. Okay. But I had 32 jobs up until this point. So I could learn new systems incredibly fast. So then I get in there, and within 8 months, I catch 3 promotions. And now I'm an executive, and the owner's flying me out to Phoenix. I'm in Florida to start at a remote location. Then they fly me to Phoenix. They move me to Phoenix, and now I'm an executive overseeing fulfillment. I see 7 departments. I'm still throwing events. Now I throw 30 events a year, okay, at this time. And it was awesome. I'm literally 8 months out of a 13-year career.
Right.
And I am already back at the top of my game. And then this part's crazy. I'll name drop this person. This guy introduced me to Dean Graziosi. And then Dean Graziosi, I taught him to throw this event that I'd thrown 15, 30 times a year for this other guy. He's like, hey, this guy, he changed the whole event. Why don't you teach him what you're doing? Because I'm a systems guy, right? Yeah. So Dean meets me. I throw 3 events with him. He offers me a job, okay, working for him. That never ended up coming true. But now at that point, I'm 10 months in, and I'm like, and I work for one multimillionaire, and then like one of the biggest multimillionaires in the space wished I would work for them. And I was like, yo, Nick, like, this is why we left restaurants, right?
I've got value. All of a sudden, I've got value, right? And my worth's not just up here. Other people are starting to tell me, and I'm starting to see that, right?
Yeah, I'm a commodity, dude. I'm trying to, these millionaires are like fighting over me. I'm like, holy shit, I haven't had anyone fight over me. So that was really cool. So now I'm an executive. So we're a coaching company. So 700 students come through the program and I'm highly involved. It was my idea that after everyone onboards, I call them, me. Hey, how's it going? Welcome aboard. You just saw, we're so excited to have you. Hey, this journey, it's going to be frustrating, but it's going to be fun. And there's going to be things that come up. That's what I'm here for. You reach out to me, blah, blah. So then everyone starts calling me and telling me their problems and telling me their problems and telling me their problems.
A lot of people view that as like a headache or a problem, but that's a complete gift, right? To hear like the pulse of the industry, like what problems students are dealing with.
Well, and what restaurant industry taught me is that solving problems is what I did. I did it in a restaurant environment. My skill set is problem solving. It doesn't matter if we're talking software, people, systems, restaurants, real estate. You bring me problems, I solve them. It's a universal mastery is really kind of.
Absolutely. And you start solving bigger problems. You start adding a zero to what you get paid, right? Or more. Solve those problems.
I mean, think about right now. I mean, I'm going to net almost $1 million this year from my lead gen company alone, not investing, not anything, $1 million. And how many burgers have to be sold at what price? And then you got to pay the employee and the server and the building and the electricity. And to do how many burgers have to be sold to make the owner of a restaurant $1 million? It's insane because they're $8, they're $12. So to your point, the food, although is a universal problem, it is a small financial problem. Yeah. For people to solve. So that could never have sustained me to the level at which I wanted to live. Right. So, to cut back to exactly what you said, the bigger problem is now I'm helping people buy $1 million homes, buy $1 million portfolios. Right. Now I'm solving a bigger problem. So that's really where I cut my teeth. Now, I saw the biggest problem was lead generation. People were coming into this program and then we were telling them to direct mail. But, they were honestly too new. They were sometimes putting the wrong phone number on the postcard. Imagine spending $3,000 and putting.
Dude, I've been there. I've literally you put the wrong number. I had one student, and this is why when I teach, right, I'll never miss this mistake again. An oversight of kind of quality assurance before you hit send on the campaign. Yeah, was he just transposed two numbers? He just it's not your own personal number. It's your soft phone number or throwaway business number. So he didn't have them memorized, and he just transposed two numbers and then sent out a direct mail campaign that was somewhere north of 7,000 units. I forget, almost 10,000 though, right? Yeah. And it's like, hey, I'm not getting any leads. What's going on here? Yeah. Right. And you're right. So the technical part of that direct mail campaign back then, I'm sure it was the mail merge, right? There's a lot more to it. Nowadays, things are a lot easier with the software.
It's easy, right.
Yeah, things are way easier with software. But so people were direct mailing and stumbling. And you were identifying cold calling was a better.
Well, what I had done is direct mail. So direct mail leads are the easiest leads. I mean, there is no arguing that.
They're the highest quality, Right. Yeah,
exactly. Right. Well, yes, that's exactly right. I mean, the direct mail lead should be your least lead to closing ratio, right? Is a direct mail lead.
Highest cost per unit or cost per lead, but highest quality lead with a higher conversion rate in my
Right. That's exactly right. And I also learned it was a little nerve-wracking because sometimes it wouldn't hit for a full week. So the students did we even do it right? Why isn't the phone ringing yet? Yeah. And so what I felt was two things was happening, especially for anyone, but especially the new person. One, they're not getting any experience. Okay. Who's getting the experience is the post office lady dropping everything in all the mailboxes.
And the call center answering the callbacks, right? Versus the investor.
Right. Yeah. So I was like, they're not getting enough and they're not in control. So I used to joke and say that, direct mail to a new person can be like buying an antique grenade and then a war breaks out and then you're like, all I got is this grenade. Like, I hope this grenade goes off. It's questionable at best because they don't have the skill to make sure that it actually goes well. Right. Yeah. So it's full of concern, mystery, like we don't know what's going to happen. And so my theory on cold calling is like dropping off Rambo in the middle of the jungle, right? Like we go to door, we're slitting everyone's throats. We got all the mercenaries taken out. We got to come. We neutralize the threat because it's that toe-to-toe actions, that hand-to-hand combat, right? That you kind of do in cold calling. And so I started teaching everyone to dial by hand. Don't even buy a dialer.
Yeah. People have been making millions on the phone for decades and decades and decades, right? So yeah, like it still works, right? But it's an oversight, like you said. Well, what software do I pick, or what dialer do I use? Or it's like, or when do I do it? It's like the answer is you do it now. You pick up the phone, you press dial, and you repeat, right?
Yeah, exactly. And and so I started teaching, and of course, hey, if you've got the money, direct mail. Hey, that's what we encourage you to do. If you don't have the money, or if you just direct mailed and you're running low, then dial by hand. But we didn't teach any other. So like as an executive, this like saved the company, right? We changed all of our events to cold calling. We were sending out the mail and we were spending $5,000 just to make them happy. Well, we started shifting it. And all of a sudden they're cold calling. That's free for us. It's free for everyone. And the experience they're getting is through the roof.
Yeah.
Even a cold call, you learn more than handling a great direct mail lead. It's like you're gonna because that embarrassment that we feel,
that's growth.
It's right. Yeah, right.
Dude, that uncomfortable. Step back from the cliff because you're about to die. It's either that uncomfortable, or it's like it's growth. Usually, that's whenever we feel that uncomfortable feeling, it's like danger lies ahead, or just like growth lies ahead. Run from it, right? It's a similar feeling, but you're right. Like you're kind of avoiding growth by trying to like use the introverted outreach method. You're saying so you kind of solve this problem. At this time, you're kind of although you're in the entrepreneurial space, you're kind of an intrapreneur for somebody else, and essentially you're kind of the muse that just modernized, right, or had a huge epiphany that sounds like changed the company, right, and made some big pivots. So I'm guessing the wheels are turning. Like, wait a minute. I'm working for the millionaire, but I just had the the $10 million idea or epiphany here that changed everything.
100%. So what ended up happening was I changed the whole system. Everyone started seeing results. Everyone started closing deals. Yeah. Well, come to find out, I wasn't a very big culture fit at the company. Okay. Coming from restaurants, I don't understand corporate structure.
Right.
Okay. Like, I don't care. Like, I would talk to marketing guys and like tell them that they did something wrong. And they're like, hey, you're not our boss. I was like, oh no, I'm not disciplining you.
Yeah.
I'm just
being like candid or authentic, dude. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey man. Hey dude. Like, it's like one example was we were in this meeting and they said, hey guys, our emails are going to get suspended if we keep doing this one thing. That was one meeting. And the next meeting, they're like, guys, our emails are suspended. Oh no. And I'm not in that world. I was in fulfillment. I wasn't in sales or marketing. But I go, hey, Bill, yeah. Last week you mentioned if we didn't stop doing this one thing, that did we stop doing that one thing?
Yeah.
And then everyone looked at me like I wasn't even like rude. Like, I don't know. I'm just curious. I'm listening. I don't know. And then they looked at me like I was like the biggest asshole. And you know what my lesson there was, and I'll help all of you who are 9-to-5ers, is you don't want to ask questions that your boss isn't asking.
Yeah.
Okay. So nothing I ever said to anybody was rude. But if their boss has never asked them that question, then I am way out of line.
Right. And it's the whole, like, in the workforce environment, it's very much more of like a praise publicly, like critique or question privately, right? Because you're right, there can be a lot of blowback. I still remember a meeting I had where at the time I'm like I'd been an engineer. I was pretty far along in my career, but at the same time I wasn't a senior at the meeting. And we traveled down for this big meeting down in Denver, and I'm sitting in the boardroom, and it's the CEOs and the regional blah blahs, right? And everybody at the table is making much more than me, right? But like you, I'm sitting at the table and I'm going like, I know the answer to the problem that you're all chit-chatting about. Like, I'm dialed in. I know the fix. I know what's going on, like out in the field. I'm in tech at the time. And I remember like thinking that like, yeah, these guys might have all these degrees stacked, higher salaries, right? These titles, but I realized like, dude, I'm the smartest person in the room right now when it comes to this problem.
Yes.
Right? When it comes to this problem. Funny thing is, I visit with an old colleague, you know, pretty regular, but the funny thing is fast forward a decade now, right? And I'm like, it's crazy to think like, yeah, I make more. I'm like, I make more in a quarter than all three of those characters combined salary wise. When at the time I was like going, oh my gosh, right? You know, how do I speak up with these superiors in the room? But it makes people uncomfortable when you start to ask those hard questions that identify like the root problems,
really
or like, hey, we identified the problem, but it's a problem with meetings, right? Like nobody says, hey, I'll champion this or I'll take this, you know, monkey's on my back, right? I got the action items. You just talk endlessly about things and it's so predictable what's going to go wrong. And then when it does, you have a meeting, right? And then maybe you form a committee to talk about what went wrong. It's terrible. It's terrible if you're from that environment, like you're saying, of like, we're getting things done. There's no time for like being politically correct in the restaurant. Like we've got to cut to the chase, right?
Yeah. Well, that's
dude, I grew up working in a rock quarry. Like there's no HR department or person in a rock quarry, right? Like you don't run it through HR. If you got something to say to somebody, you say it, and it's very efficient and effective. But like you're saying, some of that stuff doesn't translate well to.
It doesn't. Right? Yeah, no, it doesn't.
No, I sense a change. I sense something's about to happen here. Something's.
Well, you know, what was funny is I thought I was being threatened. So then the exact thing you said, so the CFO was actually the owner's relative. So I go to the CFO and I'm like, hey, bro, like he's frustrated about this. I got this. Yeah. I tell you, I can fix all this shit, but he's not listening. I was like, can you say something to him? All I just need is him to listen a little bit, you know, like I really think I could fix all of this. But, you know, they already didn't like me because I'm so direct. And again, here I am doing my direct thing again. Yeah. Where I'm like, hey, CEO, I have notes for you too. Yeah. Right. And they're like, well, you shut up. Will you shut up?
Haven't you looked at this like org chart? You're a rectangle. You're on a rectangle down here.
What are you doing all the way up here?
Chain of command.
Yeah. And so then the relative says to me, and I thought he was threatening to fire me at the time. I'll tell you how the story ended. He goes, Nick, it sounds like you are on the path to entrepreneurship. And I walked out going, what the fuck does that fuck? What was that? Are they going to have to fire me and I'm going to have to be an entrepreneur? Are they going to, I swear to God.
Jedi mind trick for like your days away from being let go?
Well, so then I get called into work. One of the bosses called me. And so the human resource lady got fired. And after she got fired, supposedly they found all these complaints about me from the other executives. Not my staff loved me. Okay. Yeah. But the other leadership did not, you know, but I had like 30 employees. So that really is what matters to me.
Who you care about.
Like, so then I end up going to work and they're like, blah, 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 you know, and I think they were going to let me go. And I was like, look, guys, I'm really good at my job. Why don't you let me work from home? Okay. And this is pre-COVID. This is 9 years ago. This is a long time ago. Okay. This is when no one worked from home.
Right.
And I go, why don't you let me work from home? You can cut my pay and I'll work from home and then we'll go from there. And then they very skeptical. They go, well, think about it. The next morning they call me at 7 a.m. Nick, good news. We're going to cut your pay by 50% and we're going to send you home to work. And I said, deal. And I ended up totally working from home. They did cut my pay. And one of my deals with them was I was like, guys, I'm going to be an investor. I taught all these people to cold call. Now I'm going to cold call. So I go online in their community and I live streamed me cold calling for 1 hour a day for 3 months. At the end of those 3 months, I had 4 clients that called me directly. Hey, I see you're doing this every day. Could you call for me? I see you doing it. Could you call for me? So those are my first 4 clients. Then I made a post inside of a group that went viral because I was offering me as the cold caller, all American cold calling company. right? And we're still the only one of our kind, and we're still all American
company. And at the time it was you, but it's like,
yeah.
cold calling company, right? Like
Yeah.
Trump organization, and it was him, right? Like you
Yeah,
start out as
exactly.
a company of one.
Yeah, it was all me. I was invoices, follow up, cold calls, statistic tracking. We actually a lot of the same systems. I look back at who the person I was, and then God must have thrown a lightning bolt that went right through me because I created so much stuff. I created the Taj Mahal for myself, and I look back and I think of how I was grinding. But I used to work 70 hours a week for other people.
Yeah.
What do I care?
Yeah.
Now I'm working 90 hours a week for myself.
Right. And you probably realize, like, when you're building your own empire, like you talked about that willpower meter, well, the energy meter, like when you ever notice how like when we're employees and other people do this, like you measure, like, I worked 50 hours this week, I worked 60 hours. You track it, you count it, right? And it's like a badge of honor, like, oh, I worked all this overtime, right? But when it's your own business, like, you just do what needs to be done. And there's not like, hey, I worked 27 hours of overtime, right? It's like when you're building your own empire, you don't get exhausted, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're putting in long days, but there's that compound effect ahead of what you're building. So
Right.
it's really what's exhausting is that you put in all those hours for somebody else, man, and that's deflating. That's exhausting. So you launch the business. Dude, let's fast forward. Let's jump ahead. The work that goes into that, right? Obviously, spoiler, right? It works out, right? It works out for you. Here you are talking about having $1 million year, right? And back-to-back years too, right? Like consistently having $1 million years as a
$1 million net. That's not
when we were talking before about 20-some thousand in a restaurant, right? So what do you obviously, like, you're providing a service that's valuable, to people. I know what you do. We've worked with you. A lot of our students have worked with you. Why don't you tell people what it is you guys do that is there's such a need for it, right? That your business is doing so well.
Yeah, I basically invented something. It is really what and it's like, it's what everyone needs. So I have like a turnkey lead generation company, and we offer 5 things to all of our clients. And the first thing we offer is I can pull a list in any market in America. We do use Data Tree right now. I actually am signing up for Land Vision right now. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard of that. They seem like an awesome resource, like $25,000 a year and really great land data. But we have Data Tree
data for houses and land. Right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. And then we skip trace it. So our skip tracing is super accurate. We get the right person on the phone over 85% of the time. Okay. And we can prove that to you. That's the thing, is no other skip tracing company in existence owns a cold calling division, right? So we actually see what happens when we dial. And then we can prove that to each of our clients on each of their campaigns. Because that's very important. If we're not getting the right person on the phone, we're really not getting any leads over, right? So then after that, we have American cold callers. Back to what I was saying earlier. All of our cold callers are right here in the United States. They call everyone 2 to 3 times each if they don't answer. And if they do answer, we ask them if they own the property and if they've ever considered selling. And if they have, we ask them about 10 to 12 due diligence questions, and then send the leads.
Qualifying questions, right? Because that's the goal. Is you're not converting the leads. You're not making the offer on the house and buying the house, getting under contract. Right. You're generating the lead, right? And asking those scripted questions that me, the investor, or somebody else would hand. You have your own default script, but also you guys, I know, are willing to customize a little bit to fit other people's business, because my vacant land doesn't have a street address because it doesn't have build permits yet. So it's a parcel number, right? So it's more like it's 5 acres on this Peterson Road versus like 123 Peterson Road, right? That's the difference with some cold calling companies that don't get land. They struggle with that because they want to streamline everything, and they can't adapt to these vacant land properties that don't have an address. Right? How do I commute? You're not going to read off a 20-digit parcel number, right? Making them familiar to what property you're talking about. So you're generating the leads. Your All-American team's cold calling people, and we know because we have a direct integration with our CRM, Lead Boss CRM, and Lead Mining Pros, where essentially people can You generate the lead, and if people want, that can be integrated and come right into their CRM live, right, as the lead comes in. And then it's up to them. That's where like the investor, right, would reach out, and their part is the lead conversion. You guys are lead gen, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So after we call, we do text everyone too. So that's the last piece that we do. So
one channel. Yeah. Let's talk texting, because done for you texting is a huge service. A lot of people that go into texting, like a lot of educators push, softwares and texting platforms because there's some pretty lucrative affiliates, right? But then the reality is like, now you got to hire a VA to sit there and text for you. Okay. Right. So by the time you're all in with a VA for texting and the software, sometimes it makes sense. Also, I'm kind of a fan of like at arm's length of the texting, right? And the cold calling. It makes sense to hire a done for you company. So in addition to cold calling, you guys do offer done for you texting, right?
That's right. So we text blast everyone. And to your point of the beauty of us is, we charge per conversation, not per text message. So if you have 10,000 records, we text message all 10,000 people. If they reply positively, we keep replying for free. And we don't charge you, and those credits don't run out. So you want to talk about hiring a software, like if we talk about launch control, with them, they're $500 a month. So even if you don't send one single text message, it's $500 the next month.
You're on the hook. You're saying, yeah.
Right. And so with us, if you give me $500, I owe you a certain amount of text messages, and that's owed to you forever until you use them all. So one of the other differences between us and the software is you could not waste a buck with us if you wanted to. Your money doesn't expire, the month doesn't end, and everything resets, and you have to pay again to get access, because that's what a lot of people don't consider. You just paid a VA $250 a week to do nothing. You didn't send a text at $500 a month. I was like, or with the done for you thing, I send you the hot lead, you just call that.
Yeah. Well, and then you can kind of turn the faucet up or down. It's not a recurring, it's kind of package based. Like if I've got a busy season, right, and I'm generating leads, I'm doing deals, and then maybe I back off during the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, like I'm not on the hook for that monthly, right, recurring.
Right. That's right.
Because it's kind of like package based X calls.
Yeah, everything's pay as you go.
That allows you to kind of right size things, I feel like, too, because there's a lot of people that are like, hey, some people go, I need 30,000 text or calls, and other people like, I need 3,000.
Right.
I think they're packages. And well, if anybody hasn't checked it out, dude, check out leadminingpros.com. We'll have the link in the show notes, and then we've got a deal worked out with Nick too, where if you use the coupon code BOSS when you check out, he's going to give you a 10% bump on cold calls, texts, and stuff. But check out leadminingpros.com. Even if you're not planning to buy something, like just to get a kick out of some of the names of Nick's products, man. Like they're like, you've got the best names in the business of like territory takeovers. Like, I mean, some of these names, dude, are incredible. So I get a kick out of it. I love them, but you've got a lot of packages that allow people to right size things for what they're doing.
Their needs.
And that's feedback I get, because some people are just side hustling, doing a couple deals here and there. Some are running a team, right, in a high level business. So we all have different needs. And I think you guys have you've identified that kind of gap in the market, right? Versus this subscription based model. You're kind of allowing people to pick packages that work for where they're at.
Yeah, exactly. I like it more that way. And, the goal is I want happy customers. I don't just want customers to sign up with me once and feel obligated. So every purchase that comes into lead mining, someone is choosing, right? Yeah. So this year we're going to do $1.6 million in sales. None of that is recurring, if you think about it. That is all single purchases, or they come back themselves, and they buy. I often compare us to a gallon of milk. And you don't buy a gallon of milk from Walmart and they start shipping you milk every month and then charging your card, right? You want more milk, you go back, you get more milk, Yeah. And that's how I like my service. Now, I am going to be implementing some cool things this year where, like, if you buy 5, you get 1 free, right? Yeah. So it feels that way. It's not really, that's why I'm saying, hey, commit to 5. I don't even care if you commit or not, but commit to 5 in a 6-month period and I'll give you another one for free. I'll give you the 6th one, right? Yeah. So, because that's my version of committing. It's like, I'd rather give you a bunch of free stuff for sticking with me than make you sign a contract.
Yeah, then lock you in and hold you. You sign that contract, man. You sign that 12-month contract.
That's not
Well,
us.
well, no, and I think for a lot of people, investors, regardless of where you're at, like, dude, yes, kind of the genesis is market selection, right? But after that, we know where we're marketing. We know states, counties, zip codes, subdivisions, whatever. Like the next thing is lead generation. Like, that's oxygen, right? Like we got to have lead gen. So what you're doing is solves a huge problem, right? Now, conversion's a whole nother conversation, right? That we got to, that's for a different skill set, but you can't convert leads if you don't have them. So that's where you guys are solving that, and you're solving on multiple channels, like you said, with the cold calling and the text messaging, skip tracing, data. So yeah, a lot of things there.
Like someone asked me, he goes, well, how many hours is that? And I was like, well, I mean, if you really want to think about it, it's like 7 VAs. I mean, what if you had your own list puller and your own skip tracer and your own cold callers, and someone has to set up the dialing software and create a campaign? And one of the biggest things I offer, which we didn't get into yet, is it's the fifth thing. So the first 4 is list, skip, calls, and text. And the fifth thing, I often joke and I say it's a load of customer service. So, my cell phone number is on the website, mine.
Yeah.
So if anyone calls me, you're literally going to get me. And I know you don't believe that, but trust me, just call the number. A lot of people are like, it really is you.
Like what, dude?
Because my videos are everywhere, so they know my voice.
Yeah, this is a heck of a deep fake AI chatbot you got, Nicholas. No, dude, it's me. I swear. And I tell people that when they ask questions, they'll say, "I'm like, well, like, I've told you enough about like." Message Nick, call Nick, like it's on the webpage, right? Like Nick will have a call with you. Like, don't sit and wonder, right? Like sit and wonder for weeks about this. Like you could have leads today, tomorrow. That's the beauty of you guys, the channels you're doing, like you said. As much as I absolutely, I'm a kind of a multi-channel or omni-channel marketer, but sometimes when we start, we don't have the budget, to do that with a side hustle. But the beauty of what you guys are doing is that speed to lead. Sometimes people hit send on the direct mail campaign and it's 10 or 12 days before leads come in. Like, so if we have a similar response rate, like you're getting those leads now, that's the beauty of some of the channels of marketing you guys are doing. Well, sweet, dude. Hey, just to kind of wrap things up, man, I want to thank you for coming on. I'll share with people, like we've known Nick for a number of years, sent a lot of clients his way. I don't even know how many testimonials you guys have got, how many screenshots you've got of checks people got and deals they've done as a result of your lead gen and your marketing. But yeah, check out Lead Mining Pros. Go to the website, use the coupon code BOSS if you want a free bump and skips or calls or marketing there. And appreciate you. And really, it was fun diving into a little bit of the entrepreneurial journey too, because I know what you do today, right? But it's always a blast to kind of hear like the superhero backstory, right? Before what the like, you just look back, and I don't know how you are, man, but I kind of feel like sometimes kind of take it for granted. Like you said, like you look back and you go, what, you're talking about doing 1.6 million in business, but there was a time like you were like at 30 grand a year and like, dude, if I could just get to like 60K a year as a salary, right? Like that would be awesome if I could get a promotion and get here. So you're ruined, man. Like you're ruined as an entrepreneur right now. Like you've stretched what you can accomplish, what you can do.
Yeah. Right.
It's only up from here. So I think a big takeaway too is for people beyond your services, dude, you're an action taker, right? You're not like talking about theory. The main thing is, like you said, you pick up the phone, you start dialing, right? It's not what we talked about. It's not what dialer do I need, what software, like you start today, right? And I think that's a big part of your success is like, instead of like morphing or changing to fit the corporate culture or something that you weren't, like you're like, you recognize I want to stay being me. This isn't for me. So I gotta build my own reality around my personality versus adapting to theirs. And I can appreciate that because I remember getting up, going to the job every day and thinking the same thing, man. Like put on the employee mask, like, fit in, right? And the reality is,
shut up.
Yeah, this isn't me. Like nobody's allowed to, like, good ideas don't come from the bottom. What are you thinking, right? Yeah, I loved it, dude. Really appreciate the time you took and hearing more about you. Everybody check out Nicholas Nick at leadminingpros.com.
Yeah,
All right.
thanks for having me. See you
Thanks,
guys.
Nick. Thanks for tuning into The King Show. If you enjoyed today's episode, I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Also, don't forget to head over to travisking.com for show notes, resources, bonus content, and more ways to connect with me and the guests that you hear on the show. Remember, greatness is already within you. It's time for you to boss up and claim it. Stop building someone else's empire and start building your own.